Well, let's talk some business now. The Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprises has welcomed the decision of the Central Bank of Nigeria to maintain all key monetary policy parameters at the 305th meeting of the Monetary Policy Committee. It stated that the decision reflected a pragmatic measure and increasingly sophisticated understanding of the inflation dynamics currently confronting the Nigerian economy. Indeed, the MPC retained the monetary policy rate at 26.5%, maintained the symmetric corridor around the MPR, retaining the cash reserve ratio at 15% for merchant banks, 45% for deposit money banks, and 75% for non-TSA deposits. So let's talk to the Chief Executive Officer of the Center for the Promotion of Private Enterprises, Dr. Muda Yusuf. Dr. Yusuf, good evening and thank you for joining us on the news at 7. Yes, we've seen your statement, but we'd still like you to react directly to this. You really expected that there was going to be a retention of this rate. What are the fundamentals driving or making you expect this action from the Apex Bank?
Well, first of all, I think let me reiterate our commendation to the central bank for taking that decision, because the inflationary situation we witnessed, particularly in March and in April, were essentially driven by structural factors. And what I mean by structural factors are things like energy costs, cost of logistics, cost of transportation, maritime costs, insecurity, and so on. And when you have an inflationary situation driven by structural factors, you don't deploy monetary instruments to deal with structural problems. Because ordinarily, because we had headline inflation in March and April, the tendency could have been to increase interest rates. So we are happy that the interest rate was not increased, because that could have imposed additional burden on businesses, on manufacturers, on small businesses and entrepreneurs. So we welcome the decision, and we believe that is the way to go. We use monetary instruments to deal with liquidity issues, excess liquidity issues. What we are dealing with here are supply side factors, which has nothing to do with liquidity. So that is why we feel that the CBN position is perfectly in alignment with what we feel at the center.
Now, moving forward and considering the fact that we continue to see an uptick in inflation, the war in the Middle East is still on. Do you think that the MPC would sustain this retention, or maybe the next meeting there could be a shift?
Well, the next meeting, I understand, is in July.
Yeah.
You know, we are dealing with a dynamic situation. We need to see what happens between now and then. So it is difficult to predict what the outcome will be. But what I can say is that to the extent that we have relative macroeconomic stability, particularly the stability around our exchange rate, because that's a very critical factor in stabilizing prices. What we have seen, these energy prices and the cost of transportation, of course, has affected food price. But if we continue to experience stability with respect to the exchange rate, I think that will provide a lot of resilience as far as the management of the inflationary situation is concerned.
Dr. Muda Yusuf, thank you so much for your time. CEO, CPPE. Enjoy the rest of your evening.
Thank you very much, Tolu.